Hey guys, thanks for joining for another week of Amplify with Adam. Today we have Rusty here from BS Creations. Rusty, man, thanks for joining. We're excited to have you.
No problem. I'm excited to be here. Love manufacturing and love talking to people about it.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Me too. So two peas in a pod, you know. Rusty, so tell us a little bit about yourself, about BS Creations. Just give us a little bit of the background.
Okay. Actually, I've been in manufacturing my entire life. I grew up with a tool and die maker, so I've been running lathes and mills since I was 12 in the garage with dad. I fell in love with manufacturing, so went to engineering school. And out of that, I've worked in the aerospace industry, transferred from there over to the foundry industry where I was the operations manager for a full machine shop. And then I actually built a factory in the heat treat industry. So I like to joke that, fate set me up to be a blacksmith or something. Um, but I've always loved manufacturing. I've always worked for smaller companies, and I'm excited about kind of the renaissance we're seeing in
Yeah.
some of the maker spaces and some of the manufacturing that's going on. And one of the things I saw when I was working for larger companies, I've worked for some of the biggest in the world with customers like Airbus and Boeing and Ford, is one of the things that keeps American manufacturing struggling is tooling. It
Mhm.
costs so much in this country to buy tooling. It's a necessary evil you have to have. And so I actually wanted to start a company that could help do design work that, wasn't $300 an hour, that could help build tooling that wasn't $40,000 a tool, because those are really limiting things from actually coming back to the United States in manufacturing. And, I know what it costs to make stuff. We all do in manufacturing. And so not to undercut anybody, but to give an inroads for us to actually get that production back in shops here in the US. And so it's a passion of mine. So I actually started buying equipment about 7 years ago, strictly on cash as we had it, saving and not traveling a lot. Started out with a CNC router 7 years ago, and now as of 2 years ago, we went full time. Quit my other job, and so we're in our full second year of business now,
That's
full
awesome.
time. We have a full CNC shop, 3-axis machining center with 4-axis. We have CNC press brakes, plasma cutters, lathes. It's kind of across the board. It's a really fun, fabrications and machining dynamic where
Yeah.
we can piece things together that other shops that specialize in more can't. And that really comes out of my background because the aerospace company I worked for was 170,000 square foot sheet metal shop. And so I did
Yeah.
tool design and manufacturing there. And then I moved over to run a machine shop because of my machining background. So it's a little bit of best of both worlds to kind of see how they can marry together and actually work well together instead of competing in some areas.
Yeah.
So
That's amazing, man. Now, so you said like 7 years ago, you got your first machine and started kind
yep,
of taking it on. Was that that was like the origin of BS Creations?
it really was. I started that with a couple investors with a different name and built it up, just saving the money we were making. We did a lot of tooling for automaking companies, actually uh, electronic vehicles. There were
Yeah,
some startups that we did a lot of tooling for. Ended up being able to save enough money. We bought out our partners and we rebranded it as BS Creation.
congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a fun journey, and I've been thankful this last year that we didn't take out a bunch of loans to buy stuff.
Yeah,
Did it slow way, but honestly, I was afraid when this last year started about where it was going to go, what was going to happen. We actually grew the entire last year.
which is
Um,
an interesting like I don't know. You heard a lot of doom and gloom, but I hear a lot of 2020 was a strong or best year or growth year for a lot
yeah.
of folks.
I feel like the people that were able to be flexible or willing to be a little flexible, we
Mhm.
filled in for a lot of large companies that sadly, they had problems with COVID in their workplace, so they couldn't support the supply chains they were in. And small shops like us that have 1 to 20 people were really able to jump in, fill that gap, and we were able to grow a little bit with customers that we hadn't expected in the past.
Yeah, I guess that's a key point. Obviously 2020 was struggling for a bunch of people, but when I say that a lot of people had growth or success, it's small manufacturers saw that.
Yep.
So you touched on the renaissance earlier that you're seeing.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about that because I feel like I'm seeing something similar, and I'd love to dive into it.
Sure. I mean, I'm a a strong believer in tech schools, having run multiple shops now, saying that we just don't have people coming out trained,
Hmm.
including engineers knowing how to design things that are actually manufacturable. I really see an age group between, I don't want to narrow it down too much, but probably 25 to 50 that
Yeah.
are just kind of tired of where things are going, where they're at. They see opportunities with some of the growth of the machines in the marketplace, even U.S. machines, small machines like a Tormach or a Haas, or
Hmm.
and then they have Fadals and Sills that are entering the market that they can jump in, they can start a garage shop, and it's not a $300,000 piece of equipment that they can't pay back. It's a $60,000 piece of equipment or a $30,000 piece of equipment. And so I really see these maker spaces popping up in big cities. They're teaching people how to build things themselves, and some people are jumping off of that and saying, I can do that full time. You
Yeah.
have 1 to 5 man shops popping up, across the U.S. And really, I think that's what would save American manufacturing. It's not going to be the 20,000 employee companies. It's the getting back to the grassroots that we actually had in the 50s and 60s. You
Hmm.
saw a lot of shops start up, and some of the massive shops we have today started as 5-man shops back then.
Right.
And so it's kind of cool to see other people that are passionate about it. They're on social media sharing secrets, helping each other out. You obviously with social media have your mean people, but we forget
Right.
about those people and just focus on the people answering questions. Yeah, this is how I'd hold that part. This is how you do that. Or here are the great classes that I'm seeing out there in the space for you to learn how to be a machinist. Because honestly, not everyone grew up with a manual machinist.
Yeah.
We got in this habit of calling button pushers machinists. People just came in off the street, never seen a machine, and we throw them in front of a computer, let them push a button for a while, and we say, well, you're a machinist. And that's kind of I'm not downplaying those people, it's kind of a disservice to them, because there's so much more that goes into being a machinist, being a maker, than just being able to push a button. You've got to think through the process of, okay, let's take those people that are passionate about it, let's let them learn, and who knows, in 5 or 10 years they might have their own shop. Which, is that a bad thing for the company they're working for? No, not really.
No.
You can farm it out, you can give that stuff that you doesn't really fit you anymore to them. It's one of those rising tide raises all ships kind of deal.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's the type of thing you expect growth in your own space. So if you
Yeah,
have employees that are starting their own shops, right, you can sub that work out, or some of that work out that's not fit you anymore. Yeah, no, I definitely see that, and I think that's an interesting age bracket, the 25 to 50, right? Like anytime that you're drawing broad strokes like that, there will be people that fit on the outsides of both of
absolutely.
those. But it does feel like that there's a real kind of passion and a really robust community that, like you were talking about, is so open to sharing knowledge and passing it along to and helping people, right? Like, hey, I'm stuck in this part. How would you guys, help here? And
Yep.
you'll get 50 different answers on different message threads, which is pretty
Yep.
incredible.
Hopefully you're not doing that with the customer's part, but
Yeah, right. No, yeah, a learning part,
exactly,
right?
yeah.
So yeah, man, that's awesome. So 7 years ago you got started. 2 years ago, it kind of picked up steam. What does right now look for BS Creations? Like, what do you guys, what's kind of you guys taking on right now? You seeing, 2020 you grew. Is that continuing in 2021?
It really is. 2021, it looks like a nice growth year. Some of the customers we brought on, we're not going to keep some of the parts that came from the bigger shops. They're going to give those back to them, but there's other parts we're taking on that they had. And so, we're going to grow those customers in the box industry, which is a strange one that I didn't ever think I would work in.
Yeah.
Box manufacturing industry, the car industry, we're actually doing some tooling on that. Oil field, natural gas. Is an industry for us as well, which is, it's kind of fun to be on the electronic car side and on the oil field side. It's like, hey, best of both worlds there.
Yeah.
We're really looking to add a couple employees this year. We're looking to buy a fiber laser, another CNC mill, and then a CNC lathe, hopefully at the beginning of next year. So we try to do everything on cash, so we're not gonna just jump out and add a bunch of things. But I see a steady growth, and for us, realistically, what we see is we want those jobs that are somewhere between one-off tools to 100 pieces at a time. We're not into the thousands of pieces. That's somebody else's ball game.
Yeah.
And then we're also doing design work on some of our own equipment. With that passion for makers, we see some pieces of equipment that we've used at larger shops that's just not available in the marketplace, or if it is, the cheapest one you can buy is $400,000 and has
Mm-hmm.
way more capabilities than anyone really needs to start out. And so we're actually designing a couple pieces of equipment to actually be the OEM for some makerspace equipment for sheet metal forming, as well as some steel stuff. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
That's exciting, man. That's an exciting little road ahead you got. Now, when you were talking about hiring on or bringing on some additional workers, right? What do you look for in someone that is applying to your shop? Is it experience? Is it passion? Is it kind of being a sponge, or is it kind of all the above? Like, what are some of the things that you're looking for a good employee?
Well, really, I mean, experience, it would be lovely, but it's a hard thing to find in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of metro areas. We're kind of in a rural area. And so what we're looking for the most is an interest, a passion to learn. If someone's willing to learn, I can teach them anything.
Right.
And so the beautiful thing about that is if you can teach them a craft, you can teach them a trade, like to be a machinist or a sheet metal brake operator or something, they have a career. Like they could go out and
For
make 50,
forever.
60, $70,000 a year without, a bunch of debt in there. So, we're really looking for people that are passionate. If I stumble on somebody that has several years of experience, that would be amazing. One of my part-time employees is actually my father. He's a 45-year tool and die maker.
Yeah.
And so you just don't find those there. We don't have the strength in the tech schools that we had at one time. And I hope that's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think a lot of companies, we've got to be willing to put the training, the apprenticeship money into people, and they'll stick around.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of people that I've seen with companies like that are looking to jump around. You taught me, you're treating me well, I'd love to stay with you, kind of thing.
Yeah. I think
So,
investing in the talent that has the passion for the work is so true. I mean, that's where it takes a little bit of investment in the front end, right? Of like,
so,
you have to spend hands-on time, right? But then
yep.
you've got a really talented and dedicated employee further down the line that can really increase your productivity and like you said, probably improve your culture and the feel around the shop for sticking around for that long.
Precisely.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what about from the technology side? Is there anything that's kind of like drawing your eye? Anything that you're like, maybe from a quality like CMMC or something of that nature for your shop that has caught your eye for 2021?
Right now, we're doing any of our probing in the machine. I would like to get a CMM, as time rolls along. Right now, that doesn't necessarily fit some of the work we're going towards. So, people have asked us, are we going to do ITAR? Are we going to, take some of
Mhm.
those steps? And I've been there with aerospace in my background. And right now, our customer base doesn't really warrant that or make sense for it. So yeah, we would probably have a CMM, probably not this year, probably the following year. We do rinse shot probing in our machine right now. That's good enough for
Yeah.
everything that we've got going. And then, one of the exciting things I see on technology is CAD CAM ability coming
Mm.
down into a price range where people can jump into it. I've been in SolidWorks forever. I've worked in CATIA, and seeing like the Fusion 360s and those things come in, where obviously they're not as strong in some areas, but they're very powerful softwares. You can get a CAD, you can get CAM for 3 years for $900 instead of maintenance fees for a 900 a year kind of deal.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about the doors opening for that next group, that group that's coming in.
Hmm.
That's what says, I want to do something. It seems like it's becoming more of a reality because of the cloud-based things that are going on, and what's out there right now. So the
Yeah.
technology side
Now
is
for that
fantastic.
next group, yeah, I mean it's super exciting. For that next group, one thing that I always ask for people that join the show is like, if you were talking to your younger self or to someone that was interested in getting into the space, right? Like what's a couple pieces of advice that you'd pass along, right? It sounds like you're really interested and invested in passing along information. So what's some of that stuff that if you were sitting down and you'd pass along that advice to?
So one of the things is don't be scared to talk to your customers. There's a lot of customers out there that'll throw a design over the fence and they've worked on it, but it's not manufacturable or they have ridiculous tolerances and people take the job, they bid on it and then they can't make it and they end up ticking people off and making a bad name for themselves. Sadly, there's a lot of designers in the world today from all the way from the Boeings and GEs all the way down to small shops that they think just because I can draw it, you can make it. I've been on projects like the 787 that cost overruns and things just because they had a GD&T tolerance on a sheet metal part that really belonged on a machining part and didn't fit that part. And so, as you get experience or you have a niche, be willing to talk to your customers that, this project, do you really need plus or minus 3? Because if you do, you're going to pay this much. But I think you can get by with probably plus or minus 5 or 10, and it's going to cost this much. It really affects the budget of what they're driving at. And most people in our industry and the marketplace don't understand how much of a cost driver those tolerances really are.
Yeah.
So be willing to talk to them because really you end up building loyalty. We have one of our first customers that came to us with a non-manufacturable part. We helped him go back and forth a couple of iterations, turned one of them from a sheet machining part into a sheet metal part. And we actually got put on the patent as a co-designer. So it was like, didn't think that would happen, never expected it. Just thought, hey guys, you're going to spend way too much money for something you don't need. And they're probably going to be one of our most loyal customers forever because we've saved them that much just going back and forth. And being honest, if it's something you can't do, but somebody else can, just, there are other jobs out there for you. So be willing to have that conversation, the relationship with your customer instead of just saying, oh yeah, I can do it when you might not be able to. I think that's a huge benefit. And then the other thing is, make sure that when you're looking at equipment, you're buying equipment, you buy what you need, not what the sales guy tells you might need 10 years from now. Because you jump into a $300,000 piece of equipment, you've got to pay for that every month. So it can really squeeze your cash flow. And I've seen a lot of friends that have been trying to do that, and they kind of overstepped their skis a little bit there and got in trouble, especially in down years. Because reality is, economy, there's down year coming every 5 or 10 years. It's just going to happen. It's the way it is. So you got to be prepared. But those are kind of things. It's exciting. There's so much more work out there than we have the ability to do right now. I mean, you see people offshoring stuff all the time because they can't find people to do it. So, help the people next to you, help the shop around you, because there's a lot of work that there's enough work for all of you to eat. And if you're friendly to everybody, you're going to end up being, they're going to be friendly back to you. Whenever they have something they can't do, but you can, they'll throw it to the fence to you. So just be a community. And I think it's an exciting time.
It's the people side of the business that you're talking about in a lot of this, right? Like relationships with the local manufacturing community, and local is a modular term. It can be as close or as far as you want. But then also your customers, right? And that can come across as coming back to them and saying, hey, you need to look at this again. That comes across from a thought leadership perspective, right? Like, what you're talking about if you're having that conversation around that, and that can be a really powerful sales tool there.
It absolutely can. And that builds loyalty in a hurry. If you're trying to save them money and be a partner rather than just a supplier, they're going to jump on board really quickly. But
that's amazing, man. No, I love it. I love it. That's some really good advice.
The people stuff is the hard stuff. It's you can buy a piece of equipment, you can learn how to run it, especially with things being computer driven today. It's that how do you fix the problems and how do you talk to the people when something goes wrong that's the tough one.
Yeah. Well, it can feel hard, right? But being honest is truly can be really easy, right? And then once you're honest once, that trust builds up really strong. So, well, man, Rusty, this has been a phenomenal conversation. I've so enjoyed it, man. And I would love to see. It sounds like BS Creation is on a growth path, and we'd love to have you back on because really, truly, this has been enlightening. So, thanks for joining this week.
I appreciate you having us on. I appreciate the exposure and just the time to get to chat with other manufacturing people. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Well, guys, tune in next week for another episode of Amplify with Adam. And Rusty, man, thanks again.
Thank you.